Hi, my name is Mike Rodriguez with GraphTel, and I'm here to talk a little bit about our GraphTel Model 9623 EV leakage rate monitor. In front of me here I have a 3-range unit, and it scales from the low range is 0 to 200 SCCM, and by just toggling this button you can move to the next range, which is a mid-range of 200 to 2000 SCCM, and the third range is a high range of 2 to 20 SLPM or 2000 to 20,000 SCCM. There's also options to change the flow units. Right now it's on SLPM, and you have the option to toggle between SCFM, SCFH, SCCM, and I just brought it back to SLPM. There's also the option to toggle between two types of flow gases. You have the air as a default, and you could also toggle with nitrogen. It also consists of 2 digital pressure gauges. One is utilized to measure the supply, and one is utilized to measure the test volume. You have the option to toggle between the test pressure and the supply by utilizing our touchscreen and just simply toggling the button here, and it'll go back to from test pressure to the test volume, so that you don't accidentally stay on test pressure and miss the measurements that you're reading. There's also a zero feature. If the meter is slightly drifted over a long day in the field, the zero button allows you to zero the pressure gauge or the flow meter range that you're currently selected on. By pressing the zero button, it allows you to then select the zero pressure option or the zero high flow meter option in this case. And then if you hit zero test pressure, it'll zero the test pressure, and it notes on the screen that it was successful. So panel layout. I'm going to start with the supply. The supply for pressure consists of a 3/8 inch NPT fitting female. From there, I'm going to trace down to our regulator, which allows the user to control the pressure to their vessel. The next area is Victor 1, which is the isolation valve for the test pressure line. We have over here a test port which can be used for calibration. The next location is the 4-way valve, and the 4 locations are bypass, low flow, medium flow, high flow. And it turns quite easy to low, medium, and high. And for a test, you typically start on high after you bypass and fill your volume. From there, you have the option, as I mentioned before about the bypass, we have Victor 3, which is currently closed, and that is an isolation for the flow meters. So once you fill your test vessel up, you could then go from bypass to high like I have here, and then open up the Victor 3 valve and start to measure flow through the unit. The next location is pressure. This is the test pressure that is being applied to the test vessel, which is associated with the test volume. I'm going to briefly talk on how to set up for a leak rate test utilizing the GraphTel Model 9623. Once you have your supply connected, the user can then open up Victor 1, verify that you're on the bypass. From there, you can pressurize your test vessel by utilizing the regulator and monitoring the pressure being applied downstream to the test volume with the touchscreen. Once the test volume is fully filled, you then can start on your high flow range by moving the 4-way valve to high flow and slowly opening Victor 3 to monitor the flow rate. If the flow rate is below the high flow range, which in this case is 2,000 to 200,000 SCCM, you would then cycle down from high to medium and then change the touch screen from high and toggle through to the medium range and verify what your flow rate is. And if it's still too low, you then go from medium to low and bring your four-way valve down to the low flow range. And by then, hopefully you have a really low leak and won't have too much to record. The GrafTel Model 9623 EV has three power options. The first one is the 24 volt DC, which is the primary. There's two backup fail-safe options as well, a battery pack and a pneumatic air generator. So if I were to happen to lose power, I can remove the power and show an example. The battery power kicks on automatically without interrupting any of the functions of the leak rate monitor whatsoever. If for some reason the battery power goes out or starts to get weakened, you have the option to utilize the air generator. You have the option to utilize the air generator by simply turning this valve and utilizing the supply source. Let's talk a little bit about the 9623 EV touchscreen. There's an options menu that you can go to by simply hitting the button in the bottom right corner, and there's a whole bunch of settings that you can go through. The first setting is the display. From there, you have the option to change the system date, the system time. There's some backlight options and some decimal options, so you can change the resolution of the different flow ranges and flow units for measure. From there, we have the stability criteria. The stability settings can be toggled on or off, and it simply gives the user an indication how stable the flow rate is using a color code system from red to being unstable all the way to green, which is completely stable. From there, we have the filter options. The filter options allow you to change the response rate of the individual flow meters from low, medium, and high by toggling. Zero will give you an immediate response, and 9 will give you a max allowed filtering response. The response rate changes greatly if you're at 9 compared to 0. My preference would be to stay in the 0 to 1 range so that you can see immediate response and know exactly what flow rate you're measuring. The next setting option is data recording. If you have a USB stick available, you can set up a file for your operators to record the flow real time as they're collecting it in the field. So there's no mistakes when collecting data on the long night shifts. The next feature is the nozzle checks. The nozzle checks are an optional device that we provide that allows the user to do a field spot check of the leak rate monitor to ensure that it's reading properly. The next feature that we have here is the diagnostic. The diagnostic is one of our best features because it allows the user in the field to do a functional check of the high, medium, and low flow ranges along with the pressure gauges to verify that they're functioning properly. Simply by following the touch screen here, by following the instructions on the touchscreen, you can do a diagnostic check of the system, and if there's any red flags, you can contact GrafTel for technical support. The next feature that I'm going to talk about briefly is the calibration. The calibration function is actually password protected. The calibration function is actually password protected, but allows the user in the Cal Lab to do a full calibration on the system without having to send it out to an outside source if it happens to be contaminated.